My name is Zahra, and my friends and I, Elham and Shakiba, have prepared this presentation for you. We are going to talk about Japanese Kaidan. Now, what is Kaidan? The word Kaidan can be roughly translated into ghost story. We can break it down to two kanjis, kai, which means strange, and dan, which means narrative or story. Kaidan is considered to be a very old genre in Japanese literature, and the term can be used to refer to any kind of ghost stories. These stories sometimes carry some elements from the Edo period because in that era Kaidan was very popular among the people of Japan. Now you might be wondering, what is the difference between Kaidan and what we typically know of horror stories? Kaidan is not necessarily scary. They are just weird and mysterious tales. And they don't have to be scary. Sometimes they are just told for amusement or for moral purposes. These stories have predictable plots and also Buddhist undertones. And the notion of karma is highlighted in Kaidan. We also have the elements like the water, which Japanese believe to be the pathway to the underworld. The tales that we want to cover are Kitsune no Yomiuri, Yotsuya Kaidan, and Bansho Sarayashiki. The first tale that we are going to cover is Kitsune no Yomiuri, or a fox wedding. A man was traveling along a road in the woods when all of a sudden a sun shower began. A kitsune must be getting married, thought the man. Suddenly he spied a beautiful woman ahead of him on the road. She turned back and smiled in his direction. He followed her as she walked, and every time she turned and smiled, he felt his heart flutter. The woman entered a grove of trees. She broke a few branches and slid them into her hair, and they turned into beautiful hairpins. She traced her fingers along the trunk of a large tree and circled around it. As she did, her clothing transformed into a fabulous white bridal kimono. How strange! This woman must be a kitsune, he thought to himself as he stared in amazement. The woman approached a bamboo grove. Countless fox-shaped faces began to emerge from the forest. They were carrying long, ornate chairs with palanquin, which they brought up to the bride for her to enter. Each of the guests was wearing a splendid kimono decorated with their family crests. I was right. It's kitsune wedding. The man was excited to witness something so rare. The man followed the procession for a long time, deeper and deeper into the mountains. Finally, it arrived at a large manor with a straw roof. The kitsune all entered the manor. This must be where the ceremony will take place, thought the man. He searched around for a place from which he could spy on the ceremony. He found a small hole high up in the wall. The man climbed upon a large stone step and stretched his legs to reach the hole. From there he could see the whole interior. The inside of the manor was decorated with expensive dining tables. A kitsune was seated at each one, and the ceremony began. It's just like a human wedding, the man thought to himself. After watching for some time, the man grew tired and stepped down off from the peephole. He lit his pipe and had a smoke. As he puffed away on his pipe, the scenery changed before his eyes. What was a great straw touched manor just a moment ago was now a wooden shrine. What he thought was a stone stair was the pedestal of a great stone lantern, and the hole he picked through was the round hole of the lantern. The guests were all gone. Even though he knew that they were kitsune, he had still been bewitched by their magic. Yotsuya Kaidan. Here is the plot for this kabuki play. Act 1. Tamiya Lemon, a ronin, is having a heated exchange with his father-in-law, Yotsuya Salmon, concerning Salmon's daughter, Oiwa. After it is suggested by Salmon that Lemon and his daughter should separate, the ronin becomes enraged and murders Salmon. The next scene focuses on character Naosuke, who is sexually obsessed with Oiwa's sister, the prostitute Osode, despite her being already married to another man, Sato Yomishichi. As the scene begins, Naosuke is at the local brothel making romantic advances toward Osode when Yomoshichi and the brothel's owner, Takeutsu, enter. Unable to pay a fee demanded by Takeutsu, he is mocked by both Yomoshichi and Usude and forcibly removed. Shortly afterward, he kills his former master, whom he mistakes for Yomoshichi, as the precise time of the slaying of Salmon. It is at this point that Lemon and Naosuke unite and conspire to mislead Oiwa and Usude into believing that they will exact revenge on the people responsible for their father's death. In return, Usude agrees to marry Naosuke. Act 2. Ume, the granddaughter of Ito Kihei, has fallen in love with Lemon. However, believing herself to be less attractive than Oiwa, she doesn't think Lemon will ever want to become her husband. Sympathizing with Ume's plight, the Itos scheme to have Oiwa disfigured by sending her a topical poison disguised as a facial cream. Oiwa, unbeknownst to her at the time, is instantly scarred by the cream when she applies it. Upon seeing his wife's ghastly new countenance, Lemon decides he can no longer remain with her. He asks Takeutsu to rape Oiwa so that he will have an honorable basis for divorce. Takeutsu cannot bring himself to do this, so instead he simply shows Oiwa her reflection in a mirror. Realizing that she has been deceived, Oiwa becomes hysterical and, picking up a sword, runs towards the door. Takeutsu moves to grab her, but Oiwa, attempting to evade him, accidentally punctures her own throat with the sword's tip. As she lies bleeding to death before stunned Takeutsu, she curses Lemon's name. Not long after, Lemon becomes engaged to Ume. Act 2 closes with Lemon being tricked by Oiwa's ghost into slaying both Ume and her grandfather on the night of the wedding. Act 3. The remaining members of the Ito household are annihilated. Lemon kicks Uyumi, the mother of Ume, into Onbu Canal, and Omaki, the servant of Uyumi, drowns by accident. Naosuke arrives in disguise as Gonbei, an eel vendor, and blackmails Lemon into handing over a valuable document. Lemon contemplates his prospects while fishing at Onbu Canal. On the embankment above the canal, Lemon, Yomoshichi, who is not dead, Naosuke killed another man mistakenly in his place, and Naosuke appears to fumble as they struggle for possession of a note which passed from hand to hand in the darkness. Act 4. At the opening, Naosuke is pressuring Osode to consummate their marriage, to which she seems oddly averse. Yomoshichi appears and accuses Osode of adultery. Osode resigns herself to death in atonement and convinces Naosuke and Yomoshichi that they should kill her. She leaves a farewell note from which Naosuke learns that Osode and his younger sister was his younger sister. For the shame of this, as well as for the killing of his former master, he commits suicide. Act 5. Lemon, still haunted by the ghost of Oiwa, flees to an isolated mountain retreat. There he rapidly descends into madness as his dreams and reality begin to merge and Oiwa's haunting intensifies. The act closes with Yomoshichi slaying Lemon out of both vengeance and compassion. A long time ago, there lived a beautiful and young maid named Okiko, whose master, a samurai named Aoyama, was known as cruel and brutal. The latter, coveting Okiko, made advances to her every day, wanting to make her one of his mistresses, but the young woman applied herself to refuse them cordially. Losing patience, the samurai set a trap for Okiko. In fact, the household had 10 extremely valuable plates, considered to be one of the family treasures, and their care was borne by the maid. Aoyama decided to hide one of the plates and then point out to Okiko that one was missing. In a panic, the latter started to count and count again the plates, breaking one being punishable by death, to arrive perpetually at the number of 9. Aoyama offers to cover Okiko on condition that she becomes his mistress, but the poor lady refuses once again. The samurai, mad with rage, beats her and makes her hang over a well, torturing her and plunging her inside, and asks her one last time if she would finally become his mistress. Refusing again, he kills her and throws her body in the well. Since that day, Okiko's voice has been heard from the well, counting from 1 to 9 and then uttering a terrible shriek. Some legends say that a monk would have succeeded in conjuring the ghost by shouting 10 at the end of her counting, and the spirit, thus appeased, would have passed into the world of the dead. Others say that we still hear every night the desperate Okiko counting and crying in the well of Himeji Castle, one of the most famous castles of Japan, which has thus become a tourist attraction. Now we want to talk about some movie and anime adaptations from Kaidan folktales. Kami-sama Kiss. It is a story of a broke girl, Nanami, who loses her home because of debts of her dad. While wandering, she meets a strange man who gives his home to her, which she finds out later that it is a shrine and the man was a deity, and now Nanami has to live as a god with the help of the shrine familiar, a kitsune named Tomoe. Ayakashi, Samurai Horror Tales. This is an anime that has 3 Japanese horror stories, one of which is a retelling of the story of Oiwa, and the narrator of the story is the original playwright Nanbuku Tsuruya. This movie is based on the events which took place in Himeji Castle in the 16th century Japan. One of the characters, Sadako in the Japanese version and Samara in the American version, is based on Okiko from the last tale that we covered. Thank you for your time and attention.